Greetings, YouTube. After much wait and anticipation, I am excited to bring to you today a review of the latest offering from Zelos. It is the Zelos Horizons GMT version 2. For anyone new to the brand, Zelos is a Singapore-based brand. They are well known at this point within the microband community. They have quite an extensive lineup of offerings, many unique, and are actually getting into versions 2 and 3 for many of their watches. The packaging that you see here is very typical for Zelos offering, and it always impresses. Initially, you'll see branding here with the Zelos logo in this slip cover, and you slide that off, and you actually have a nice acacia wood box, which is quite well finished. It features magnetic closures, a nice hinge, so it actually will snap shut for you. And then within, this is the latest offerings of their watch rolls. They've gone through several generations of watch rolls. These are a pleather base, but very nice quality. And I personally am really fond of this latest brown almost gray coloring to their rolls. Just jumping right into it, let's go ahead and check out the Horizons. You'll see here I've already done my official unboxing and actually got this sized for my wrist. So here's just the extra bracelet links. Next up, we have the Zelos Tropic strap. These are very supple, nice quality. They feature the Zelos logo right on them as well. Nice brushed finish. I find these to fit great on my approximately 6.5-inch wrist. If you're much over 7.5 inches, you might have a little bit of an issue with fitment, but I find this to be perfect. In the next slot, you'll see the Zelos warranty card. Quite impressive. They are metal made. I believe it's a coated or plated stainless, if I recall correctly. And then inside, you can see very intricate metal etching and even milling through here. Just a really nice quality touch. And finally, for what we've been waiting for, the Horizons version 2 itself. So as this is the version 2, part of what I wanted to highlight with this review is some of the differences and arguably improvements over the version 1 offering. They really, as I've come to find in comparing my version 1 with this version 2, they really have many differences between the two watches, to where you can tell that they have the same base foundation, but they really do feel like completely unique pieces. So first, let's just get an overall look at this watch. You can see beautiful finishing here on the side. One of the changes that they made compared to the version 1 is the already pretty slim case was made even more slim, taking it down to about 11 millimeters, not including the crystal. You can see really nice polishing on the chamfers there, both the top and bottom. Adds to the sleekness of the appearance and just really high quality touches. In between there, we've got a gorgeous brushing. And that actually continues down onto the bracelet as well. You can see the bracelet, very smooth edges. It actually has been polished as well, and then brushing down the middle, and continuing the same down with the clasp. very nice touches. So moving back to the crystal, this in my opinion is probably the biggest change between the V1 and V2. The crystal now actually has, whereas the V1 had somewhat of a dome to it, it was a very slight dome, and it was an even more slight for the box edging. As you can see now, there is a very significant box edge, and while it does still feature a dome, it is again a pretty shallow dome to it, but it's a very pronounced box edge, and we'll see that beautiful effect as we go through here. With the V1, it had a significantly larger rehaut or chapter ring going around, where it actually came into the dial a little further, and it had cutouts for each of the indexes. Now you can see the rehaut has actually been pushed up a little more, so it's a little more vertical, and it no longer features those indentations. What that did is it really served two purposes. One, it opened up the dial a little more, so it has a little more breathing room. But additionally, with this high top hat or box edge here, that actually comes in. So where that rehaut cutout would be coming in, now that kind of opens that up to where it allows for the full effect with that box crystal. And you can see that beautiful distortion that you get if you come out to the edge. That, of course, isn't going to be for everyone. I personally think it's a really nice touch. It's a very premium feel to it, and I think it's a good addition. Will it be replacing my V1? No, I still think that the V1 has a great place in the connection. I actually would be featuring the V1 here as well. It's currently with Zelos. I had an issue with my dial, but El Sean Tang, the owner of Zelos, is of course taking excellent care of me, as he always does with his customers, and getting that straightened out right away. Looking at the case back here, you can see it still features the same as V1, still features that gorgeous custom rotor, which has the world, and it actually has a Z right there as well. One thing that was a disappointing change, and this actually came from ETA, is the original version actually had some perlage, so some nice metalwork on the movement. While this V2 is still the Elaboré grade, it unfortunately no longer features that perlage on the movement, and that's just the latest batch of these ETA movements. But it's a relatively minor thing. Some of the other differences that you'll notice in comparison with the V1 is still have the Sapphire Crystal for the bezel insert, but now it actually has full lume in this particular version. In this version we're looking at here is the Frost, which is of course the white dial, and it's actually a full lume. Unlike some of the other Frost offerings, this one has BGW9 for the entire dial, and then it also has C3 for the indexes, with the exception of the hands is also, the GMT hand is also a BGW9. And then this bezel insert, this is a BGW9 in here as well. And at this top, it's just the numbers, and at the bottom, it is full lume. Onto the bezel, the original version actually had a 60-click bezel, and one of the complaints that many people had was if you're truly using it for its GMT function and wanting to track a third time zone, what would happen is you could only actually hit the even hours. You could not hit the odd hours evenly. Now this has been changed to a 48-click bezel, which may sound like a reduction since it went from 60 clicks to 48 clicks, but what this does is it adds true GMT functionality, where now you can go in half-hour increments all the way through, and you can cleanly hit on every index marker if you want to track a third time zone with your bezel. The bezel action, it actually is a bearing-based action. I have personally found that I don't prefer bearings. I actually prefer a more traditional bezel action. One of the things that Zelos is known for is having fantastic bezel action. This one is no exception. It has a nice pronounced click, as you can hear there, and it is a very tactile feel. This one has slightly more play than some of their other versions, but it's still plenty acceptable, and of course everything lines up exactly as you'd expect. So excellent result there as well. Getting the movement started here. You can see this one has, I'm not sure if I caught it on the case back earlier, but you can see this does have an ETA movement in it. It's actually the ETA 2893, which is very common for any of your GMT watches. So it does have a nice Swiss movement in it. It does have a screw down crown. Unscrewing the crown here. Get a nice pop. Moving to the first click position. So let's go ahead and first make sure we have this in a safe position. It does, as you see there, have hacking, which is of course the second hand stopping. So if we spin clockwise, you'll see the GMT hand going, and you notice the second hand is still going, so you can actually keep your time as you move across time zones. You can make your GMT adjustments. And then if we spin counterclockwise, you can see the date window changing. This edit movement has a very nice clean sweep to the second hand. Screwing the crown back down. Everything very smooth for operation. One more time around for all the angles. Very, very clean lines to that case. And as you'll see here in a wrist shot in just a moment, it looks quite attractive and just really melts into the wrist. On the clasp, you do actually have 6 micro adjustments, so plenty of range and versatility there without having to remove links. And for link removal, you actually have screw down links as well. Nice articulation. Relatively small links, so it contours well to the wrist even with my smaller size. I think the clasp length is perfect on this. Enough clearance for the hand, so it gives you plenty of range without being too large on the wrist. Nice pop snap. And it of course does have 2 safety pushers as well as the fold down. Zelos Z right there. It's a really beautiful watch. I have another Zelos on my wrist right now, and we'll be coming back to that in just a couple minutes. So you can see it sits just beautifully. Bracelet, just the perfect amount of articulation to keep it comfortable with moving. No vibration, no rattle. You can hear in the clasp just the tiniest bit of typical movement. Just a lovely piece. And again, this is on a 6.5-inch wrist. Really love that effect from the box crystal. Nice accent color of that orange against the white dial, just gives that little bit of pop. And the rest is more of a traditional panda theme with the black and white. The handset and the indexes, you can see, have kind of a chameleon effect. They're not the typical just polished stainless steel. They actually have, I would describe it as kind of a polished gunmetal color. When you get at extreme angles, you'll see a lot of that silver come out to it. And then as you get more direct, it almost looks like it's just black. So it really adds to the effect. So one of the things that I wanted to offer here was a comparison against another Frost, which this here is the Zelos Mako 3 in Frost. I was initially worried the two might be a little bit similar and duplicative in the collection. As you can see, though, they're quite different. Everything from the dial to the dome shape and effect. A much higher box, but then a lower dome on the GMT, whereas the Mako has a lower box, but then a higher dome, so it peaks more in the middle. This gives you more of an almost bubble effect, whereas this gives you more of the almost flat crystal, but then very nice box edge distortion effect. Both beautiful watches. Here's the Mako 3 on the wrist. As you can see, a little more wrist presence, has a little more dial space, especially with not having as pronounced of a box edge. That gives it a more open feel. So the dial itself is a little larger, and that was one of the things I neglected to say here with the Horizons. Both of these are 40mm cases, but with the Horizons, it actually shrinks down to a 38.5mm bezel. So that, in conjunction with this high box crystal, really gives it a smaller wrist feel. I think it's plenty versatile, and there are plenty of people with larger wrists who still really like the Horizons, but it does definitely have a smaller feel. This one I think is a little more versatile in that it can pull off dress attire, has really nice clean lines to it, nice low case profile, very sleek, but at the same time it still looks at home in casual wear, making it just a really versatile watch. I have a couple other watches that I wanted to highlight here, because this one of the things to know with Zelos is they actually do initial launch pricing on any new offerings. So until June 15th, this is actually available for $749 US, and that's including international shipping. After June 15th, if there are any still available, because these are limited runs, the price is anticipated to go up between $100 and $200 US. So definitely a great opportunity to buy one at a reasonable price. Unfortunately, this Frost version is already sold out, as are both of the Meteorite offerings. There's one that's a full Meteorite for dial and bezel. There's one that's a blue Meteorite for only the dial, and then it has a blue and white for the bezel. There are, however, 3 that are still left in stock. There's one that is a midnight blue, and here's a midnight blue Mako. This one, as you can see, has a guilloche or whirlpool pattern to it. The GMT does not have that pattern. It's just a sunburst, but this will give you an idea of the coloration that you could expect and what that one would look like. It does, of course, have a different bezel for it as well, but that gives you an idea of what that color might look like. And then this one would be very similar to what you could expect for the dial on another offering that's still available, which is the Teal. The Zelos Teal dials are really beautiful. They have a gorgeous sunburst effect. They really like to play with the light. Very dynamic. And just an excellent choice. This one here is a bronze swordfish with the teal dial. And the third one that is still available in stock is what's being referred to as the Ice. Unlike the Ice Mako, the GMT Mako, or the GMT, Ice actually has a slate gray dial, but then the Ice part comes in through the bezel. One of the early complaints that I've seen with the bezel for that one is, while the full Lume effect is really cool, it does tend to wash out during the day, to where the legibility of the bezel insert is not the greatest. You can see Jody from Just One More Watch did an excellent review and featured that model, as well as he actually had the midnight blue version in that, so you can see both of those colorways. All right, so finally wanted to get a Lume shot going. So let's get these charged up, and we can actually look at a comparison between the two Frost versions. With the Mako, This one actually has black lume on the indexes, and then it has C3 for the bezel insert, so we'll definitely notice some differences with those. And for charging this up, I'm just using an O-Light. This is an i3 UV. You can pick one of these up for around $15, even less when they're on sale. But this is definitely a staple in my watch box. As you can see, these are just completely lume monsters. On the left there, we have the Horizons GMT, and on the right, we have the Mako V3 Frost. Really a big difference with the C3 in the hands and indexes versus the black lume on the Mako, and then the full lume bezel insert as well on the Horizons GMT. All right, so I hope this has given you a better idea of what to expect from these current Horizons GMT offerings. I think they're a really excellent choice. If you are on the fence about grabbing one, I would definitely consider picking one up before the sale ends. Thank you for watching my video.